All right, this is Patrick Rogers, and today we have the privilege to have Kary Radestock on the show. And Kary's the CEO of Hippo Packaging. Welcome to the show, Kary.
Thanks, Patrick. I'm so excited to be here. Talk to you today.
Awesome. We're excited to have you. And so Kary is the CEO and founder of Hippo Premium Packaging. It's a packaging design and production agency focusing on the cannabis, CBD, and hemp industries. And Kary started the company in 2016 and is already tipping the scales at almost 1.5 million this year with some great plans for expansion. So again, Kary, great to have you on the show.
Thanks so much, Patrick. I'm really excited to be here and hopefully just to have a nice conversation with you. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, very cool. So, Kary, I always love to open up the show with the same question with all my guests. What is one interesting fact that not many people know about you?
Well, I have played bass in a band and keyboards and vocalist. So I was in and now it was just a house band,
Okay.
literally.
Okay.
My former husband was a psychologist, and we created this band, and we started performing for their group, and then we opened it up to our friends, and we did it for about 10 years, and we'd learn all these new songs, and we'd put on a show twice a year and in our house.
That is awesome.
It was so much fun, and I learned music and learned, just community and actually getting to perform. It was just a lot of fun. So it's something that a lot of people don't know about me, and I love bass, so that was fun.
Do you?
Yeah.
So
I
would
don't
that
play
be
it anymore, but
no? Okay. All right.
because it was I had that was my time, and I got to perform, and I took lessons, and it was part of my life. But it was a great part of my life.
Well, we have that in common. I don't play bass per se, but I love playing guitar. I love singing, and I'm sure I'm nowhere near as good as you were. But let me ask you, so if you were gonna go play a cover right now for all of us, what song would it be? Like what would be your go-to song if you were to go back to it?
If I had to just stand up and do it today, I'd do Wild Thing. Yeah.
Wild Thing. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. I'm a classic rock girl, and I can play the bass and sing that, and it's pretty easy. And so sometimes I that was probably, and it's fun, and everybody kind of has a nice, it's just a fun situation.
You don't want to by chance give us an acapella, do you?
Oh, no. You don't want that.
All right, cool. So awesome. I love that. And I can definitely, it's one of the things I actually really respect about people who are talented in different areas in right brain and left brain. Because there's very, very different things to be able to be a student of business and leadership and sales and marketing and business. It's very different skill set than the other side, the other side of the brain. So,
that's such an interesting thought, Patrick, because when I feel like my career really took off when I combined them both, because that creative part, in what we do today is we design and develop packaging, child resistant packaging or premium packaging for a very, very busy, messy, market that's evolving. But using that creativity actually, I think has been a turning point in my career. And because I think all of us have it, we have both sides, and some of us maybe don't need to, but if you can incorporate some of that other side, you may have more to bring to the table.
Yeah. Wow, that's fantastic. And that leads us right in, tell us more about Hippo. And I know it's in the cannabis industry, but tell us more about what you do and
Sure.
yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. A lot of people say, how did you get into this? And so I started in mainstream print in the LA print community, and just stayed with the same company for nearly 20 years. I quit my job just a few months shy of my 20-year anniversary to start Hippo. I was working at the time for R. Donnelley, so it's a very large packaging printing company, one of the largest in North America. And I had seen a need for good help in the cannabis industry, and I decided to come in. I actually, started the research while I was at Donnelly and for them. And then they decided, that it was a little too early for them to get into the market. This was in 2015.
Yeah.
So they wanted me to pivot back to cannabis or back to mainstream. And I'm like, oh, I think I really need to follow this path. So that's how I got into it. And I started as a sole proprietor. And then I think one of the things that I did well starting out was I realized I had to really be a thought leader and an educator for packaging, because most people didn't know what it took. And so I started out by writing and speaking on best practices. And I was lucky enough that High Times Magazine asked me to co-write a feature article,
Wow.
kind of
What a
picking
break.
the top 20 cannabis packaging companies. So I got to go through and review each one of them and say what made them good and what made them great, and help select that list that made that top. It became 21 because but that was in August of 2016. So it gave us street cred in the industry, which was really hard to get. And yeah. So it really helped propel that. And I had some great people early on saying, you should join this organization, NCIA. And I'm like, what's NCIA? And I ended up joining that organization, and it's the National Cannabis Industry Association. And I was on their first group of committees, and I was assigned to the marketing and advertising committee. And I had the privilege of serving 5 years with some of the best marketing minds in cannabis. And it's been such a pleasure. I've learned so much from this group of people. And now a lot of them are clients of mine. And we just all evolved together. I was the chair last year. And this year I'm the chair emeritus. So it's been a really rich journey. And when we were talking, just kind of getting the brand out there. I think CEOs, one of their biggest jobs are to get involved and to speak with people like you, and to raise the level of the profile of the business in the community, and get involved in the community. It's important to have a seat at the table.
Well, okay, so it's
in an emergent industry. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, no, you're good. So I mean, which is one of the things, right? As CEOs and companies, we want to always strive, and some people don't really recognize it, but we want to strive to be that thought leader, right? And so it sounds like early on, you're like, all right, where are the organizations, where are the groups where my key target lives? And did you intentionally go after those organizations and pursue a leadership role for the purpose of gaining that authority and for business, or did you just kind of did it fall in your lap?
Well, it was, I'm a bit of a joiner. So I would have to say, so
like, I'll do
my
it.
background, my background is I was the Chamber of Commerce membership director, back in my 20s. And I really believed in the value of
You bring people
nonprofit
together.
and to give back to your community, and in order to get involved, you've got to get involved and to be a part of that process. So it's kind of been ingrained in me for a long time. So I knew I'd want to get involved somewhere. And I felt the NCIA was the right place for me. And I spent 5 years, and doing that. And now I'm kind of looking for my next, what's next for me in terms of a volunteerism and how to get involved. The NCIA is doing a lobby days where they go to Washington, and they meet with all of the representatives and senators and lobby for cannabis legislation. And so it's a very interesting process. So I may get involved in that this year, but it's kind of fun. Now I'm
actually doing the lobbying yourself.
Yeah, no, maybe, meeting with senators and things like that. So I'm exploring,
Well, if you do, interestingly enough that you brought that up, I actually just there's a gentleman that I just had, Sean Rudner, I think, but he's actually in the cannabis industry. I just had him on last week, and he is a huge lobbyist. In fact, he's got his you'll have to check out the episode, and I'll connect you if you'd like, but he he has his company now pretty much running all on its own so that he can 100% dedicate his time to lobbying for the cannabis industry. Yeah,
Wow.
and so he's
How
like,
exciting.
yeah,
Yeah, that's
it's so
wonderful.
funny that I think God works in pretty amazing ways. I'd love to connect you
Yeah.
if you'd like, but
Yeah.
he's like,
I love that.
that's my passion. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And that's good. And I think it's really important to find your passion and your superpower as a leader and as a company. You know, we all have it. And
yeah.
it sounds like he did. So that's great for him.
Yeah, and I think I got the name wrong. It wasn't Sean, it was somebody else, but I will connect you guys if you'd like.
Okay. Okay.
So well, cool. So all right, so I got to ask, Hippo, how did you come up with the name? And it's obviously very memorable. I'm looking at the, you know, the branding behind you, but tell us more about how you came up with that.
Well, you know, it's a story that I haven't told many people, so you guys are in
Okay,
for a
cool.
treat.
There we go.
But it really came to us quite by accident, and it was 2015, and it was just me. I was trying to decide if I wanted to enter the cannabis industry, and I'm working for a Fortune 500 company, and you know, we decide we're going to go to Vegas to MJ BizCon, the biggest trade
Mhm.
show in the industry, to
Mm,
see if, you know, we really, if we're a fit,
yeah.
if the industry needs us. So we had to come up with some business cards or a postcard or something. So we
Mm.
had to kind of name the company. So we named, and we were just, it was my boyfriend and I sitting, and we had to name it that night, you know, so we went
All right, think quick, think
hours
quick.
back and forth. And so we finally, you know, we landed on, we named it by mistake because we were going, okay, what is the Latin word for premium? And we're just Googling it on our phones, and word hippo comes up. And
No
turns
way.
out that word hippo is a Latin translation site. But by then, you know, by the time we found out, and then we were going to do a separate company called Latin for luxury is
Okay.
Luxuria. So we had
Okay.
two different business models that we had in mind. And Hippo, by the time we got to it, and we could have changed it, you know, early on and fixed
Hmm.
it, but we're
Right.
like, we like Hippo. We are the Hippo, you know. We had
Mm,
already felt that that's who it was. And then we found out that Google was a typo, and they went with it. It was supposed to be goggle.
that's right. Yeah.
And right. And we're like, you know, there are happy accidents in the universe. So that's how we came up with Hippo. And we love our Hippo. And even though, you know, he's a badass, and it's nice to have a badass on your side, you know, especially in the cannabis industry, you know, or any
Totally.
startup needs a badass on their side. You know,
Absolutely.
they're up against a rough road.
Yeah, when you think about the hippo, there is no natural predator for them. They kind of
Yeah.
run the roost
Yeah.
down there.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very cool. Awesome. Thanks for sharing that.
Sure.
So yeah, so I'd love to dive in a little bit more on, you know, building the brand. What we kind of talked about that other people in maybe the printing and packaging industry really aren't that, you know, astute at marketing themselves. So what, you know, what was your approach as you were building the brand for your company?
Well, I think, you know, for founders or people building a brand that they want to have longevity is to hire the best designer, graphic designer you can for
Mhm.
your brand development. And if you
Mm,
have the budgets, do the work of really building a brand, not just creating a logo and going out there, which means
yeah.
building who you are as a company and who, you know, what you represent so that
Mm,
you can be authentic in your approach. So I think that for me, I hired a really good graphic designer. I'm really proud of it,
yeah.
you know, and then I started speaking and getting involved, and that's what it takes to build a brand. You've got to put your money where your mouth is. You know, if you care about the industry you're in, get involved and be you know, have a seat at that table. And that's what I did. I knew just by working with the few cannabis companies that I did, they didn't have a clue as to what to do. They didn't even know
Mm,
how many they needed. They didn't know, you know, sometimes what their products were going to be. They had a general idea, but it was a very loose structure. And coming from mainstream, that was a big learning curve for me. So I really knew I had to educate And so I did a lot of writing and speaking and that type of thing. And I still have customers come to us and say, I saw you speak at Boston, 3 years ago, and now I'm ready. And
Ha!
I'm like,
Love
wow,
that.
gosh, I love it. Thank you. So and it was so it's an ongoing project to educate, because not packaging is complex, and especially if you throw on child resistant and the regulations changing state by state, it becomes very, very complex. So we often feel that one of our roles is to be a giver of information to help
Mm,
raise our industry. And I also speak to the packaging and printing industry about best practices and what they should do. As a matter of fact, I'm going to be at Westpac CanPack
okay.
in a few weeks, February 8th, for
Gotcha.
speaking to the cannabis industry about trends and opportunities and best
Uh-huh.
practices
Uh-huh.
for approaching the industry.
So so as you're doing, with your clients, like you said before, that most of your clients aren't really aware of any of this, the need for branding, the proper approach for branding, and yet they're coming to you for packaging help. So are you finding yourself almost consulting and helping put together like designers and everything else for your clients?
Yes, and
Okay.
we handle a lot of design,
Oh, you
a lot
do?
of
Okay.
logo
Okay.
development work. I
So
mean,
it's not
and
just packaging, the actual
no,
packaging itself. It's so much more than that.
yes, we do handle a lot of brand development,
Mm,
in terms of like creating logos, creating a look and feel for the packaging. Sometimes it's a refresh, a brand refresh.
okay.
So or a lot of people are small businesses and they come to us and say, I have a logo, but I have nothing else, and I need to get my stuff on a package. And maybe my logo needs refinement. So we do a lot of that type of work as well. But
Mm,
our core, our superpower, and that's we do as a service because the people need that. And but our superpower is packaging production, and that's where our background is. And we have production managers based in LA who handle it, and
yeah.
our
Yeah.
production work is stateside and abroad. And so yeah, so I think that hiring a great graphic designer is one of the best things you can do as a founder, to create the look and feel of your brand, and how you go out there, and how
Yeah.
authentic you are building your website, making that a good user experience. And if you're e-commerce site, make sure that that works, without
Mhm.
fail.
Mhm.
you know
Yeah.
but but that look and feel, and social media, you've got to do your social media. You can't, and social media can't just be, ooh, look at me. You've got to also talk about things that are important to the industry you're in, and
Mm.
share news. And that's why it's really good to be involved, so what's going on, and
Yeah.
you're part of that conversation.
To be integrated with them and be perceived as part of the community. Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So when I asked you before what you thought the biggest failure that you learned from as a CEO was, you said that well, first of all, you said there's been too many to count, but you thought that assuming the cannabis industry would be like mainstream was one of your first hard lessons. Tell us more about that.
Well, I came from mainstream and a very large packaging
Yeah.
and printing company.
Yeah.
And I used to work with accounts that were at least, they were Fortune 500 companies. And so
Right.
they had print production managers that I would work with. And these are specialists who know everything about print. That some of them may know more than I. We speak the same language. There's a way to get a project done when you're in mainstream. And
Right.
so then I come into the cannabis industry and nobody knows, what they're ordering and how many, and the
Okay.
orders are
Yeah.
small. And so I had to, I started out by quoting individual jobs for every single opportunity that came in, because, that's the way we did it in mainstream. The job comes
Right.
in,
Right. Right.
you,
It's
packaging
what you
is
know. Yeah.
quite custom, and so I realized after a year I was going to lose, I was going to have to shut down, because there's so many of these people that don't make it, and unlike in mainstream, usually when you have an opportunity you quote a few times and, you'll get 1 in 7 or something like that. But in cannabis, they just need to know how much is this going to cost so I can put my budgets together, see if I can see, if I can make it or not, and so there's a lot of work that goes into developing proposals that I nearly, went out of business because I was operating like in a mainstream model. So what we had to do was put together, okay, we've got all these prices. Let's put together price lists so that we're not so taxing on the production department. We can give the customer what they need. They need to know how much is this going to cost? Is this the right solution for my business?
Right.
So for us to be able to easily extract the information that we've already worked on is something that I think was really necessary for us, but it was a hard lesson.
You had to be more efficient in being able to tell your prospects how much it was going to be, because they just needed it for bidding purposes for now and
to qualify them. And some of them, of course, came in and they were clients. We've had a lot of clients, but they may not make it to, they say that 90% of startups fail, right? In the cannabis industry in the first year. I think isn't that I believe that's,
I don't know about cannabis, but that's it would
cannabis
make sense.
is even harder. And so for us to live in a startup world and to put a lot of time and development in proposals, and you have to, you've got to have a return on that. And so it was good for us to learn that lesson and to come up with a solution so we could give the clients what they need without us, breaking the bank.
Putting in so much, losing money on that.
Yep.
And I think that it's well, this is according to eMyth, but it was 80% of all businesses go out of business within the first 5 years of new businesses.
Yeah, I think that's probably more. I might.
It's close. I mean, we're right there.
It might have been 60, but I think that as the years go up, more and more of them.
Oh yeah, it's like 95% after 10 years or something crazy.
Yeah, something like that. I saw that stat the other day.
So Kary, if you were going to hire a CEO to take the reins for your company, what's the one book that you would require that he or she read before taking over for you? And I ask all of my guests the same questions because CEOs, we all are voracious readers.
Yes. Well, and I probably am not as guilty of that as I'd like to be, but I've started reading, and I do love it. I've read From Good to Great, which is one of my, which is one of mine. We recently decided that we wanted a business coach to help us focus the business and strategize on how to, really where our time should be. And it's been a really interesting process. And one of the homework assignments was to read Good Great, and
love it.
It was and then we've discussed it, but it's been such a rich process because we brought our leadership team together for a series of on-site strategic planning sessions to really map out who we are and where we want to go and where we bring the most value. And it's been really, really valuable for us.
That's fantastic. So, and by the way, I just want to take a minute and commend you for hiring a business coach. I believe, it's my personal belief, that every leader, manager, and especially every CEO should have a coach, and we should all be coached. Myself included. I am 10 times more productive when I have a coach.
I love having the support. And, when you're a founder or you're an entrepreneur of a small company, and, you've got a lot that you've got in your head, and your poor spouse or significant other is probably just like done hearing about it, and you probably
need a therapist.
you kind of need someone who actually gives you, that's maybe a little more distanced from it, and who's actually skilled at building businesses and building value in a business. And, it's one thing to build a business, but to build a business that actually increases in value is a whole nother thing. And I know a lot about packaging, and that's my superpower.
That's
design and market and go to market strategies. And I'm a great strategist, but some of these other I'm a new CEO. I started late in life, and so I'm learning as I go. But sometimes, somebody said, if you wrote your book, what would it be called? I'd be the accidental CEO, you know, because I just landed in this.
Oh, Kary, I love your humility. That's awesome. So let me ask. So from good to great, Jim Collins, right? Is that who wrote that book?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Amazing book.
Yeah.
What would be your, if you had to put a thumb on, what would be your biggest takeaway from that book?
You know, I really think that right person, right seat on your
Mm,
team
yeah,
in big roles and small, and to really define your core values. And it's taken us some time. We've been working on it for 6 months and really looking at being authentic on who we are and making sure your core values are communicated to your clients, to potential
yeah,
hires,
yeah,
especially leadership roles, because I feel like that for me was really one of the best things to take from it is to, you know, really make sure you're living
yeah,
that
yeah,
core values.
yeah.
And you know, we recently went through a situation where we realized that we overlooked core value, that we thought, well, you know, that person can learn this.
Yeah, yeah,
And we made an exception, the person just came and it wasn't a terrible thing. We part friends, but they said, you know, I don't feel I'm a fit in this area. And I
mm,
feel a little out of place because of it. And it was such a lesson to me to make sure that I'm listening to what we've defined as our
sure,
and executing on that, because it's really important that your team are marching to the, you know, are have these values that they share and that they can see the vision that you have,
yeah.
and row together towards that,
Hmm.
you know.
Yeah, I love that, and I see it's a repeating theme when I talk with the most successful CEOs that they've made the mistake in their career where they've hired for skill set and they
Hmm.
haven't hired for core values and it really coming from that place. So yeah, sometimes a hard lesson to learn, but it sounds like
Yeah.
it's been learned and onward and upward. So um, Kary, awesome having you on the show. We have hit so many amazing nuggets talking about the kind of right brain, left brain, how true success really came when you were able to kind of live in your full person versus just one or the other. The focus on really building the brand, investing the money to find the right people, the right team for the graphic designer, being authentic, and then also in building your brand, which I think is just an amazing takeaway for the people out there who are not getting out and getting involved in their industry, getting involved in leadership roles related to your industry. And then the other thing, my takeaway from our conversation again is just really that re-emphasis on core values. The book Good to Great, and then that authenticity. I think that's phenomenal. Um, so Kary, if there was one takeaway that you would really want the audience to absorb, what would that be?
You know, I think uh, uh, the audience is probably entrepreneurs, and I think
Yeah.
that you're, you know, you feel like you're alone sometimes, and
Mm,
there's a lot of us out there that that you know that are there for support and
mm,
coaches. You know, I
mhm.
think coaching and being in groups with other entrepreneurs is so
Yeah,
important. And
yeah.
we haven't really stumbled onto that topic, but I think of all the things, you know, what I think I read something that 60% of startups fail because they have a plan B. So you've got to
They
really
got an
go for
umbilical
your
cord.
goals. You got to go for it, and really, you know, it's going to get hard sometimes. So
Yeah.
you just keep keep going, and don't give up unless you absolutely have to, because it's hard. You know, being an entrepreneur is really hard. But invest in the marketing, you know, you marketing yourself. Even if you're looking for fundraising, you know, you
Mhm.
should have a PR strategy around
Mm.
that. So whatever you're doing, marketing is really important. So I would say, you know, maybe some of those things. I may have said
Yeah.
more than one thing there.
No, it's fantastic. It's interesting because so many companies out there, they rely on referrals as their source of leads and new business. and that's all good and great, and they're the easiest to close and all that. But the problem is you can't control them. They come in, generally you'll grow 5-10% a year, but if you really want to scale a company or take it to the next level or anything else like that, you have no light switch you can turn on and generate the marketing. So yeah, great point.
Well, and to that point, I know we're going to wrap up, but we've, all the marketing we've done, we've had so many people calling in all the time. That's where all our business comes. We have leads calling in all the time. We've been so overwhelmed with it. We have not had time to actually go after our target accounts, people who would actually be a really good fit for us. So that's something that we've got in our strategy where we've working with our coach, we defined our target market, and now we are just getting ready, which I'm super excited about. If you don't mind, shameless plug, we're going to be
nice,
sending out sustainable packaging samples, right? So it's kind of fun. Let me just I'm a terrible man. But we've got home compostable lids and Dubes tubes, and ocean reclaimed plastic and jars and labels, and
wait, what's a Dubes tube?
Dube tube? Oh, you don't know what a Dube tube is?
No.
Now, and the vernacular has changed. Cannabis is no longer marijuana or weed; it's cannabis. And
all right,
joints are no longer. It's a pre-roll. So this is really a pre-roll tube. Used to be called a Dube tube.
Cool.
So one is ocean reclaimed plastic, and the other is
look at the design on that.
And so these are Hippo branded. We're just just showing just some. But we have boxes, like we have little. This is made of hemp. This box is actually made of hemp and
very cool.
100%, 70% recycled material. So it's pretty cool. So it's a nice little. We're awesome. Putting together. We've been working on it for years, coming up with the products and the supply chain, and so many people in packaging are worried about sustainability. And so we're just about to launch that program, and I'm super excited about it. Real proud of the team for all the work that they put in on it.
Yeah, and from a sustainability standpoint, hemp is, that's one of the up and comers, the newest thing, and being able to replace.
It's really the Farm Bill, it's opened a can of worms but it's really hemp. Like for making paper and products like this, a tree takes 20 years to grow. Hemp takes 8 months to use that same stock. So, there's a lot of benefits to using hemp. So we'll see more and more of it, I'm sure.
Yeah. The only non-benefit is stuff stinks when they go to harvest it.
Yeah.
So I live up here in Southern Oregon. There's a ton of it. And, you go down the freeway, you go, was around August or so, or September, maybe. It definitely stinks.
Yeah. But, the harvest time. Yeah, I know it does. That is a bad,
Yeah, but hemp is it's taking off in so many places. They're from my understanding that hemp is about to replace many even high strength steel utilizations throughout production and manufacturing.
Yeah.
We're kind of going off on a tangent there,
and making cars and different things like that, and fabrics, and there's so many uses for it. So I think you're gonna, as the industry matures, I think the Farm Bill was only 2018, so it will we'll see more and more products using hemp as
for sure.
Yeah.
Well, awesome, Kary. So amazing products. I can tell you guys have put a ton of effort into your branding, and you do the same thing for your clients. So if any of our listeners wanted to reach out and get a hold of you, if they had any questions about your experience as CEO, or if there's someone listening in the cannabis industry that was interested in utilizing Hippo, how could they get a hold of you?
Just reach out to us either on our website at www.hippopackaging.com, or you can even call the office at 619-269-0939, or you can email us at info@hippopackaging.com.
Awesome. Very cool. Kary, thanks again for being on the show. You're an amazing guest.
Thank you, Patrick. I'm so glad I got a chance to chat with you. It's been a lot of fun, a lot of good conversation.
Very cool. And for the listeners out there, please hit like and subscribe and help us spread the word about what we're doing here. With that, we'll see you in the next episode. Thanks a lot.
Bye.